welcome to another review video. Today it's an ARC read, but it's an ARC read only because I got it on the website Book Sirens, which has so many great titles to choose from for ARCs. But this book has actually been out since last October, so it's not really an ARC read, and this is going to be a more in-depth review of that. But I will be putting up a spoiler card just before I discuss anything to do with the ending kind of thing. But this is a review of the Gargoyle by Michelle Keill, and I got this off Book Sirens because I thought the blurb was just so me, so like the stuff that I like to read. And we'll have a read through that right now. Ines Coordinate has a tragic past and a dangerous obsession. When against the odds, she beats hundreds of others to secure a place at the elite Parisian academy run by her idol and great love, acting luminary Christophe Lariche. Ines dares to believe that her luck is about to change, but the darkness that has haunted her life follows her inside the gates of the Lariche Academy, and Ines begins to understand that her chances of success and of love are more remote than ever. Overlooked by Christophe and shunned by her fellow students, Ines seeks comfort in the sanctity of Notre Dame. There, high above the Paris rooftops, she gains an unlikely ally and guardian, who confides that there is a way she can make all her dreams come true. Christophe can be hers, it promises, if she is prepared to take some drastic and ghastly extra measures. Guided by the uncanny insights of her fiendish new protector, Ines hurtles towards her destiny and uncovers the path to realising her deepest and darkest desires. And that is what got my attention with this. If you've been watching any of my videos, or if you know me IRL, you know that I tend to lean more towards the darker aspects of storytelling. The darker, more twisted, horror, gore, graphic, the better for me, especially when it's sort of psychological. Now, the first thing about this book is I was determinedly convinced that this whole setting for this book took place in sort of a Victorian era Paris. The streets are dingy, the cathedral looms over all, and it's just, you know, really sort of Jack the Ripper-esque kind of Victorian, what I was looking for. So I was completely thrown out of the book when it, in one sentence right near the beginning, it mentioned the term blagging your way in. And then in the next paragraph mentioned using mobile phones. So I was completely thrown out of the story and thought, what? Hang on a minute. What? So I went back and had a look, and it is supposed to be a modern gothic horror meets dark romance. I missed the word modern in it. So that one is on me. But apart from that, it's not that I didn't like the book, but I didn't like it either. And right in the beginning should have been where my red flags should have been raised. I almost DNF'd it 3 separate times. I sat down to read it, and I started and thought, no. And then I thought, you know what, it's only the first few pages, give it a chance. I picked it back up again yesterday, and I read a chapter and I was like, no. I was like, you know what, it might get better, just read a little bit more. And I read a little bit more, and I was like, so yeah, I almost DNF'd it at least 3 times before the ending of the second chapter, which is never usually a good thing, and I probably should have DNF'd it right then and there. The writing was monotonous and boring, and I wasn't connecting with any of the characters, not even the main one where it is Ines's point of view. That is where we are, we're in her head, and I found her dull. The story, for me, didn't flow, and it jumped about, but it was a predictable jump about. You could guess what was going to happen, almost like it was a cliche of itself. And even in the first few chapters, I could guess how the book ended. I've got like 200 more pages to go, and I shouldn't have been able to do that. I was right, by the way. Early on, I did get the point that the character of Ines and her point of view is unreliable. You're not supposed to be sure whether this stuff is happening in reality or whether it's just in her head and it's skewed. But because that is so early on, knowing that, it's not even a guess, you know. The rest of the book, you know she's unreliable, so you can't believe a word she's saying to you. So it's like, well, what am I reading for? There's no mystery here. She's unreliable. And there is a little snippet where Ines has a burst of memory where she is in the orphanage and she's been punished for something. And she's in this room. And she is told that she has a weak mind and she shouldn't let her imagination blur the lines of reality. Because sometimes what is happening in her head isn't necessarily what is happening outside of it. And you are told that early on, really, really early on. I would want to say the first quarter of this book, that's when you're told this. So there's no mystery. There's no, like, is it all happening in her head? Or is that just what is happening and she's being made to look delusional? You already know she's delusional. So yeah, that just didn't do it for me. So because I was having such a hard time with it, and I don't usually have such a hard time reading books, especially once I've got past the first few chapters, I did something that I don't usually do. I put the book down and I went to have a look at the ratings on Goodreads, which I don't usually read the reviews on books on Goodreads while I'm reading, because I don't want to be, for one, I don't want to find any spoilers, because that would just ruin my reading experience. And two, I don't want to be influenced by other people's opinions of a book I'm reading. If a book I'm reading, I like it, and then I halfway through go and have a look at reviews and they say it's awful and the ending is catastrophic, then it's not going to make me want to finish the book. But because I was having such a hard time even starting to get through this, I thought I'll look at the reviews and find out, is it actually worth continuing with? Now, the book had 12 reviews on there, and they were all 4-star, 5-star, glowing reviews for this. So I was thinking, well, you know, it must be me. It must be me, that I must be missing something, because look at all these wonderful reviews of this book. It's got to be me, because there was no 1, there was no 2, there was no 3. It was all just 4 and 5 stars. So it's got to be something that I'm missing and I should just give it a shot. And so I decided to hammer through it yesterday, and it took me about 5 hours to read this 225-page Kindle book. And I wish I hadn't. It's billed as where dark romance and gothic horror collide, which is what got my attention in the very first place. However, is it gothic horror? No. Is it horror? No. Is it dark romance? No. I found it to be more of a psychological dark thriller that wasn't that thrilling. I mean, you might say that I am being harsh, but this is my opinion, warts and all, which I do in all of my videos. You get it uncensored. Well, I try not to swear, but sometimes it just jumps out. But yeah, for me, it was a psychological dark thriller without being thrilling. I found it boring and predictable, and frankly, quite a waste of my morning. I do think if it had leaned more into the psychological aspect and kept the reader guessing as to what was reality and what was not, I want to say like Gone Girl was, but you're told right off the bat, it's just blatantly there on the page. There's no mystery to this. You don't know, is everybody around trying to send her mad so that, she can, because she's a good student and she's a threat. Is everybody trying to, get her out of the academy, to give themselves a better chance? I think that would have been more an avenue to go down than the avenue it went down. And I think the main character of Ines would have benefited more from leaning right into that maybe psychological aspect of what is reality and what isn't, rather than just stating it boldly on the page. You're supposed to keep us guessing, and it just wasn't. The character of Ines is supposed to be unhinged, and you're supposed to be along with her journey for the unravelling of her mind. Except it didn't really feel that her mind was unravelling, because you already knew she was unreliable and that there was something wrong with her, obviously. So you never really got that kind of thing, and I didn't feel that she was unhinged. She wasn't as unhinged as she could have been. And now we're going to get into spoiler territory. So here's your spoiler warning. This is spoiler territory. If you want to read the book, go read it and come back to me. If you don't want to read the book and you're just here for me, thank you. Here we go. I think Ines murdering all the academy students, bar a few, should have been more... There should have been more suspense leading up to it, rather than just offing them like that. And come on, you could have done it in better ways. And it was all explained away, the whole gargoyle aspect thing. I get that it's supposed to be like a demon or a devil or an angel or some entity, but I think it would have been better if it wasn't, and she was just projecting something onto this stone figure that she's always been comforted when she's been up at the top of Notre Dame. And I think if it had... Because in the book, everything is explained away by the gargoyle does it all. So she murders somebody and the gargoyle frames somebody else and plants evidence on them and everything. I think it would have been a better book if the gargoyle wasn't an entity, but was just part of her imagination, and it was actually revealed that Ines herself was the one not only killing them, but then shutting the part of her mind out that plants the evidence on somebody else, cleans up the bodies, gets rid of the evidence, etc. That if it was a flashback to her doing this and she realises that at the end. But that didn't happen, and I think the ending was a cop-out, to be honest. It was predictable. It was just meh. And one of the points that I was really, really hoping for to display how unhinged this main character was, the object of her obsession all throughout her life has been this guy called Christoph, this teacher at this academy that she's in. And I think it would have been a hell of a better ending if she had dispatched him along with all the other ones, finally realising that the object of her obsession is not really worthy of being that guy. And we didn't get that. And I don't like it. So you might be asking, why do I give this 3 stars? Why didn't I give it 1 or 2? And I think it had a good premise. I just don't think it was executed all that well. Did I stop reading it? Yes, 3 times in the beginning. Did I stop reading it when I was halfway through it? No. I kept on reading it. It was an alright read. Will I be reading it again? No. But it wasn't bad. You know, it wasn't a bad story. It was just not thrilling or horror or anything that I thought it was going to be. It just wasn't for me at all. And I know some people think that if you can't give 4 stars or above, you shouldn't actually be doing a review. That's been going around on TikTok, that you're actually an ass for marking any book lower than a 4 star. And to that I say absolutely not. Reviews are honest and objective, and reviews of a book are nothing to do with the reader's opinion of the author. I'm not going to take the author out for tea. She's not going to call round on weekends and we're going to go out drinking. I don't know her. And I don't need to know her. I don't know Stephen King. I still like his books. Some of the authors, I haven't got a clue who they are. I wouldn't know them if I passed them in the street. And they wouldn't know me. The review is not a reflection of the author. So now I shall get off my ranting pedestal and end the video. I know some people don't like videos that are perceived to be negative, but this is an honest space, and more than that, it is my space. And these are only my opinions. Plenty of other people read the book and loved it. I didn't. this is the end of my video, and if you like this video, click down below, you know what to do. And as always, keep reading.